On this episode of We're No Damn Experts, Mayor Bob Kelly joins Rebecca and Mahdi in the podcast studio.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You wanna get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames. If you wanna go, we can take you there. To Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
And I'm Mahdi Stay,
And we're no damn experts. We're back in the studio today with someone who pops in every now and again to our office with random pieces of information. We won't call them an idea fairy, but they're always fun when this one comes to visit. Holds a position within our community of high stature.
Yes.
So the fact that we have him on our podcast, a pretty big damn deal.
Exactly.
So guests with us today, please welcome to the podcast, Mayor Bob Kelly.
Hey, I'm going to come back here more often with an intro like that. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming. And for answering our calls, our text messages, our emails. Because not everyone has this accessibility with their mayor. So it's kind of another unique feature of Great Falls that we get to say, hey, Mayor Bob Kelly, come on the podcast. Join us, tell us everything. And when we mentioned before that we had someone send us fan mail, your response was a little above and beyond.
Well, let me walk you through that because it really was a great story. I think, one of your listeners out there, I want to give a shout out to him. His name is Matt Hoagland. Matt, I hope you're listening. He lives in North Carolina, and he sent you guys a great letter talking about how much he enjoyed listening to the podcast. This is a young guy who moved from a relatively large city in North Carolina, moved to a small town with his wife where his in-laws were living. They wanted to be near horse country. And he did the textbook approach to coming into a small community. In fact, he wrote a book about it. It's called Think Small. And I have it here. I'm going to give him a plug because it's a great story. Think Small, a Millennial's Guide to Building a Meaningful Life in Rural America. Matt wrote a nice letter. He actually had his phone number and contact information on there, and I think I got it from Rebecca on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I happened to be going to North Carolina the very next day for my mother's 90th birthday, and I called the guy. I said, hey, Matt, this is Bob Kelly. I'm the mayor of Great Falls. And unlike many people in Great Falls, he actually said, oh, I know who you are. And I said, great. I said, thanks for your letter. I just got it from Rebecca and Mahdi, and really appreciate your comments. And by the way, what are you doing on Monday? And he said, well, I'm working. I said, well, how about we have a cup of coffee because I'm going to be about an hour away from you on Monday. We got together, had a great visit. He's really happy there with his wife and brand new daughter and just having a great time. But gave me a great perspective on what he heard and saw on this podcast about Great Falls that kind of turned him on. He's very happy in his life back there in North Carolina, but we're on his radar screen. And I hope that with the listeners that are out there, you get the message that, we're a very welcoming community here. We love visitors, but we love people who visit and then stay because we can always use your talent and your treasure that you have to contribute to a place like Great Falls.
Well, so really isn't the moral of the story, send us fan mail and the mayor might buy you coffee?
Well, I'd buy more if he was actually here. And he was of age, so that would have been a great opportunity to go to some of our microbrews here and make sure he sees some of that stuff. But, I think that's part of my job to do things like that.
So Mayor, we're going to ask you to go above and beyond again.
Oh, no.
Right on the spot. So my husband is military. And we recently received orders to leave Great Falls next summer. He seems to think that if he gets enough community leaders or people in Great Falls to rally together and ask the mayor, hey, can Mahdi stay? That you'll just talk to the wing commander over at the base, and then everything will be hunky-dory.
Well, I think you could stay. I could absolutely have some influence there if you let me. I don't know if he would agree with that, but you're talking about him staying as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell people, I don't have a lot of power in this town, but people do return my phone calls. So I will make the request with your permission, with your husband's permission,
Yes.
because, those kind of things can get sticky. And I sure don't want to get in the way of the grand plan of the Department of Defense.
Yeah, because he's really.
But I am going to miss you, and that's the first time you've told me that. I'm sorry you're leaving, but I hope you come back.
Well, he was about to tell you during the 4th of July when we saw you, and I'm like, can you not tell the mayor before I before I have a chance to tell Rebecca? Like, because I know she's going to run into him probably today, and he's going to be like, did you know? And Rebecca's then going to be like, why am I hearing that you're leaving? Because through the mayor. But yeah, love this community. When I found out, obviously heartbroken. But it just goes to show that Kristen, who was formerly employed here, when she was so sad that she was leaving, I was like, this woman is crazy.
Right.
I feel exactly like Kristen, and her feelings are justified. So
yeah, exactly.
It definitely pulls at your heartstrings.
It's really true. When people come here, I mean, they have to make some adjustments, especially if you've come from a larger community. My family and I, we moved here, 28 years ago from Seattle. We've lived in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, and in Houston, and in Phoenix, and Tucson, and in Denver, and Philadelphia. I've lived in Anchorage.
My
so
goodness.
I've been to a lot of large places, larger than Great Falls. And when you come here, you need to embrace the community. You need to understand how it works, and you can find out very quickly. And, with you and your family, I tell a lot of the airmen out there, mostly the younger airmen. I mean, your husband's an officer, and he has a lot of responsibility, but when the younger airmen come here from the East Coast or big cities or different places, I tell them a couple things. And one is, I know our mall may not be up to the standards you're used to, and our fast food restaurants aren't as many as you'd like. But believe it or not, in 20 years, some of you are going to come back here and retire. They all laugh. And then I just point to people that they know in the community who, in fact, many of them are active with the Air Guard, and they say, oh, they came back. So we hope, Mari, if you do have to go, that you recognize where you live, and you'll always be a part of us here, and we hope you come back.
Oh, yeah. I will definitely try and get stationed back here again. Great. Where I'm going, it's actually going to be a little bit closer of a drive to where I'm from. So there's upsides to everything.
Absolutely.
Not by much.
I mean, when you subtract 8-9 hours off a drive, I think that's a lot.
It's significant, but for Montana, that's like just, shorter trip to lunch.
I know. I grew up in the Midwest. Some people are like, it's a 15-hour drive. Okay. Like, what? That just means I have to make one more stop. I can do this. So
right.
It'll be fine. Now, you did hint on something about how the community works and how does it work in your eyes?
Well, there's a couple things. I like to, for the purposes of this podcast, is to really look at it from a new person's perspective. We moved here when I was 40, in fact. I had a wife, and I had a 12-month-old child, and I had one coming on the way. So immediately I was concerned. I had a job. I transferred in here to work with D.A. Davidson, a local financial brokerage firm here. And but my wife left a job in Seattle, and she came here, and all of a sudden became, she was going to be raising our child and having another one soon. And so trying to find out how to plug her in was a key point for me. I had instant community because of my job. And so I think that that's a pretty typical situation for people moving here. Generally, before pre-pandemic, where broadband wasn't that accessible and working from home wasn't such a great opportunity, people came here because, like your husband, he was stationed here, transferred here. Maybe you were active here at some point. And others come here to work, whether it's in any job that they have. So the spouse that comes into the community with a job has better community access because of those employees. If you have children, you have access through school. But if you don't, if you're single or you don't have kids and you come here, there are still ways to plug in. And I think that's part of my job. And that's why I love having coffee with new people. One, I like to see their perspective. What do they see here that they like? And what do they see that they might want to have different? Everybody has an opinion when they come at first. And I like to let them mature a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 months. But it's really valuable to us as a community to feel the perspective of folks from being outside. So that's part of my job here as far as folks coming in. That's why I wanted to talk to Matt and find out, what was it like for him as a 30-something-year-old guy, wife, new kid, coming into a community? What did he do? And if you look at his book, he embraced all the opportunities that were essential to the community itself. He went to school board meetings. He went to museum meetings. He went to city commission meetings and kind of got the pulse of the community, made his contacts, and brought his wife along with him to help branch out. And it worked really well.
I think my first impression of Great Falls, I grew up in a pretty small town, about 5,000. Eventually now I think it's at 10,000. But I came to Great Falls and I was overwhelmed. I don't like large cities. I've lived in Seoul. I've lived I mean, one of the largest cities in the world, and it's never for me. So when I came to Great Falls, it's my perfect size.
Right.
And I was a little overwhelmed because I had friends that had lived here for a few months, and I see them taking pictures in front of murals. I'm like, where is that? I see them going to like a bar downtown. I'm like, where is that? They're going to sluice boxes. Where is that? And I am immediately overwhelmed. Like, why am I not doing all of this right now? And then when you get, associated or involved in the community as much as I get to now, I now know about the even larger areas or ways that the community interacts and how things get done. So now I'm just, you can't, there's not enough time in the day to do it all here in Great Falls.
And that's really a choice that people make. At the right time of life, it makes sense to get involved in your community. And Great Falls is welcoming to people who choose to. But for those who, maybe working 2 jobs and they don't have time really to do that and they look forward to their leisure time, that's the other thing about this town that's so great. You come here, you can be in the middle of nowhere literally in minutes. You can be on the river. We're situated right on the river, and a lot of times we don't talk about the Missouri River, but it's a huge influence for recreation here. We have a River's Edge Trail that is a tremendous place to either run or ride your bike, take your dog. There's I think 52 miles of it, and much of it is paved, so it's accessible for people who have some mobility issues, etc. But then we're also really close to a lot of outdoor activities. And in fact, you have to love the outdoors to move to Great Falls. We're in Montana. Our climate is really a subject of a lot of conversation. We're in the middle of a lot of dynamic change in our climate, but still we have a nice hot to moderate summer. We have a fantastic fall. We have a real winter. We have a real winter. Now, you're from the Midwest, and folks listening here, they may say, well, I have a real winter. Okay, but we're right there with you. And we enjoy it. We embrace it. And so it's whether it's skiing or snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or just getting out, you need to do that. We're in the northern part of the country. Our days are short in the winter, so there's lots to take advantage of when there is daylight. And then, when the spring and the summer comes, that's where you bust loose and you get outside. And you can get into the mountains if you want. Do some hiking and camping. There's great fishing here. You go fishing here, you catch fish. Unlike a lot of places where I grew up back east, you spent the day near the water, and that was kind of the definition of fishing. So, it's not just about the community that we are, but it's about location. And that's something that sometimes us folks here in Great Falls don't talk enough about because we take it for granted. But all we have to do is go to some of the larger communities in Montana. You've got a crowd at the trailheads when you're trying to go hiking. You've got weird traffic. You've got crazy intersections. My kids say we don't have rush hour here. We have rush minute. And that goes from about 5 till 5 till about 8 after 5, and I walked to work when I was working at D.A. Davidson, but it's really just a very pleasant, easy lifestyle and access to a lot of great things. And if you're not into the out of doors, we do have some other things, great museum, great culture here. We have a symphony. Yo-Yo Ma played here. Itzhak Perlman, Midori, all played with our symphony, and they don't come if you're not very good. And they did a great job for us. I can go on and on. I mean, that's kind of what I do, talk about why I stayed here for 28 years and why I've raised my kids here. And you can't go too far without talking about, if you do have a family, our Great Falls public schools are absolutely excellent. They're fantastic. And our military friends tell us that all the time, whether it's the learning and the education that they get, sports programs, music programs, et cetera. So we feel like we've got a lot to offer to folks who come from somewhere else and also to ourselves.
I think that's the benefit for tourism in our community is because nobody who comes here as a visitor is a hermit. It's usually the locals that are hermiting or not getting engaged. And I think one of the coolest things that we do have is even if you aren't familiar with the outdoors, and as we've said a number of times, you have to be because it can kill you. Bears, you're in their backyard when that happens. But there's a lot of organizations and groups and people who will lead hikes so that you aren't doing it alone for the first time or you're not figuring it out all by yourself or have to host a podcast and bring guests on so that they can tell you where to go.
Exactly. And, that's something that it's so available. It's like right there. And whether it's coming down and talking to you guys and figuring out, hey, I'm a climber. Where do we go climbing? Well, we've got a climbing gym here. Or, I like to gravel bike. Okay, well, here's some great outdoor gravel biking opportunities, and here's a crowd that does that. We all kind of know who each other is. And part of our jobs for whether you're a tourist coming for the weekend or you're coming to check it out for a longer stay, is to connect you with the people that have your interests. And that's, as Mari alluded to earlier, the accessibility of to all our opportunities here is just really a couple conversations away.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I could listen to you guys talk all day. I went to a trail 2 weeks ago. I went to Our Lake, and we started later in the day. So the parking lot had cars in it. I had no idea where I'm going.
Right.
I know there's a trailhead, but then there's 3. Not sure which one to go on. But there's people there to point me in the right direction. They're like, oh, no, you're going to take this way. I'm like, okay, that's what Chance was mentioning about. But exactly, I knew where to go because those people were there, but it wasn't crowded. They're there to help you out, make sure you know, like, this is what you're going to do. There were some people on horseback, and they had to say, hey, can't bring your stock past a quarter mile. They have to stay in the trailer. It's like, they're there to help you out. Any other place, well, not any other, I could name a few locations where they wouldn't bother to tell you that you're wrong.
Right, and that's a Montana thing. I mean, we're really proud of the assets that we have here and of the culture that we live in. And there's really no attitude in the state. Certainly in Great Falls, there's no attitude. You see people from elsewhere, you'll generally be asked, hey, tell us about it. You know, what's it like? We don't necessarily want to go there, but people are kind of curious about where you're from, et cetera. And when you're out in the woods, I mean, I think that's the thing with a lot of outdoor folks. We're all there to help. And that goes, there's a Montana wave. You can't go past a truck when you're out in these four-wheel drive roads without waving to each other. And basically that's a way of saying hi, of acknowledging, hey, you're on the road, but also you need something, I'm a friendly guy. We're happy to help you. And that's true with the boaters. That's true with folks in ATVs. It's true with folks out in the trail or getting to the trail. We're here to help each other.
You said that you go around all day just promoting why you stayed here for 28 years.
So as the mayor, you're saying you just walk around town going, hi, I'm the mayor. How are things?
That would be pretty obnoxious, wouldn't it, if I did that?
So what does a day in the mayor look like?
So I think it's important to recognize, as mayor of the community, I sit on a city commission and we have real jobs to do. The first and third Tuesdays we have meetings, we vote on things, whether they're ordinances or zoning resolutions and things like that, to help business prosper here. I've always said to folks, especially Chamber of Commerce folks, that our job in city government is to help you do your job. And that's really what we try to do. So we actually do the official work on Tuesday nights and a couple times a month. But during the month, there's other opportunities to do things. As the mayor, I only have one vote. I'm just one of 5, so I have no more power than anyone else when it comes to decision making. But I feel I'm invited a lot to welcome groups to come to town, to meet with employers who are curious about what our community's like, not only from a city perspective of how things work with our planning and community development and kind of the bureaucracy that every city has, every entity has, but also to let people know that, students, I spend a lot of time with high school kids talking to them about, what's in their backyard. And, of course, if you're 16 or 17 years old, I don't care where you live. What do you hear? There's nothing to do here. Okay, I get it. I was 17 once, too. I can appreciate that. But there are things for kids to do if they choose to. And that dialogue with students is a big one that I spend a lot of time doing. Also, there's a great social fabric in our community. We're not the wealthiest community in Montana. We have a pretty good standard of living, but we could always do better. So there's a fair amount of social agencies that work in our community that need support, they need recognition, and they need access to other groups who may be doing the same thing. I think we have 7 food banks in our community, whether it's at the high school, the larger citywide food bank, or some of the smaller like Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul. These folks need to talk to each other. And as mayor, I can stick my nose pretty much anywhere I want and make that a conduit for folks to do things.
Nobody ever says, Mayor, we don't know why you're here.
Exactly. And if they do, they don't really always want to hear my answer. And so it's not like I'm taking anybody to the woodshed by any means. But I do think that I have this unique opportunity, and I try to exploit it as much as I can to understand how the various things work in our community, whether it's business, students, higher education with our 2 colleges here, or with agencies that may need some guidance or support in helping folks who are less fortunate.
Have you ever said to anyone, why the heck are you giving me a call? Because earlier this summer, I get a voicemail from Mayor Kelly saying, so-and-so called me. No one has called them back. And they're trying to get to Great Falls, and they want information. I'm like, who the heck is calling the mayor and tattling on me? I'm like, go up, and Chambers like, yeah, she tried to get a hold of me too, and I didn't pick up on the first ring, so she called the mayor. And I was like, I was in a meeting.
Well, I publish my phone number online. It's on the city website, and I do that on purpose. I can choose to return your call or not, but for the most part, I get a lot of questions of people who are often frustrated with the process, whether it's something to do with the city, a parking ticket, an issue with zoning, classification, or a complaint about the grass isn't green enough in my park, or, how do I get in touch with somebody who can help me with my RV storage area? It's not always in my wheelhouse, but again, I have the ability to find out for them, and it's an easy thing to do. I think there was an opportunity here. You guys had a group coming in, and I think it was the BMW owners, and somebody called me and said, or maybe sent me an email, said, hey, we are railroad fans. Yeah. We're kind of locomotive people. You got anything going on in Great Falls to do with locomotives? Well, in fact, we do. But, I gave them to the experts, and I sent them to you guys. And you put them in touch with folks at the Railroad Museum.
Yep.
And it's one of those great things. And, but I do get some calls that are fairly serious. Many are, troubled folks who need access and to a variety of agencies and services. But for the most part, I think of myself as if you can't get help the way you're trying to answer your questions or help solve your problem, call the mayor. And I think that's part of my job.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we get calls sometimes like there's a snake on the trailhead.
I don't know who you need to report that to.
So if you want, I'll forward that to you.
No, thank you.
Are you going to come out here and put out a sign?
Please handle it if you can.
Yeah, we get some random calls. I think one of my favorites was a couple weeks ago. Mahdi was on, that was more than a couple weeks ago, was on vacation. And I answer the phone and they're like, yeah, I used to know a Sally Johnson that lives in Great Falls. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this information. Well, is she still there?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. Send them to me. I'll help her out. No problem.
Well, a lot of the times we'll answer these questions, but I preface it with, let's see what I can find on the internet for you. So they know that I don't have this information offhand, and I'm going to help you find it, but I'm going to have to let you know that what I'm doing is just searching the internet. So.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. I'll tell you something else, too. When people call me and they have an issue, I listen. But, I really can't. This may sound old school, but the fact is that I really can't do much about it unless they send me an email. Then I have a hard copy. I've got contacts. I know their information, and I can send that on to the right person. And even if it's a request for do you know or how can I get in touch with. And for the most part, I would say if people have a legitimate thing that they're dealing with, I'll get an email. But I would say about 80% of those calls that are really calling to complain or to voice frustration, they've been listened to, and that's generally enough. And so I don't really get those emails coming my way. But if I do, I respond to them and stuff. But for the most part, my communication with the public is very positive or constructive.
We have one of the coolest pictures that we've used in recruiting meetings and conventions into Great Falls, and it was you addressing the Young Professionals Conference on a picnic table at Centene Stadium.
Standing on the picnic table, I think. Yeah, exactly.
The mayor just runs up onto the picnic table, stands up there, and it's like, hey, thanks for being here. Welcome to the baseball game. But it set such a positive tone. And so when we share that picture, it used to be in our meeting planner guide. When we share that picture with meeting planners, they look at that and they're like, that's your mayor? And I'm like, yeah, that's our mayor.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I hope it worked for you.
But I think it does. It sets that expectation that everyone in our community is accessible and that you're going to have a nice, good time and that there's no preconceived social norms or tensions, that you're just going to have a nice time when you're in Great Falls. And so we always reference that picture because people are like, who's this guy? And we're like, oh, that's our mayor.
Yeah. Well, I need it to be heard, and no better place to do that. That was a great conference. had young professionals from all over the state of Montana here. And, of course, we're all looking for young, dynamic, educated folks to come, and we're looking for young, not so dynamic, uneducated folks to come. We'll take whatever we can get if you come to a community like this and want to plug in and participate. And I think that's an important message. I mean, the tourism aspect of Great Falls, I wish it could speak for itself sometimes, because it's a community that I think a lot of the world would love to come and bring their families to, explore, use this as a kind of a base camp. I know that's one of your trademarks, almost one of your branding things. We are located in such a great place, between Glacier Park and Yellowstone Park, which are, crazy now these days with the parks, and it's, everybody's getting out to see them, which I think is great to share those assets that we have in Montana. But the other thing about Great Falls that's so cool is that you can come here, you can eat well, you can get to your own spot in the mountains. You don't have to follow the crowds and head up to the national parks. We can set you on the right direction to have a great outdoor adventure with an outfitter, a great hike that's suitable for your age, your health, your kids' ages or health. Mari, the fact that you took your young daughter up there to Our Lake, that, believe it or not, is the first milestone for all children growing up in Great Falls to be able to hike or be carried to the top to get to Our Lake.
She was carried in a rucksack. She's pretty much carried every time. She did snowshoeing at Silvercrest, and she took my snowshoes and my walking sticks, but halfway in, she was in the ruck sleeping. So, it's fun to do that. I did see another... we saw plenty of people on the trail, thankfully, because that way there's other people making noise and the grizzlies know we're there. But he said that his kid didn't hike it himself until he was 6. So it was like, okay, we're halfway there.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of that milestone as a parent. You wonder how far can you drive in the car without your kid melting down totally, right? And you get to that hour, then you get to an hour and a half, and oops, we're back to an hour. Then, you get that 4-hour thing. You're like, freedom, I can actually drive 4 hours with my child. And walking Our Lake, you'll come back here someday and go on that hike, and you can say to your daughter, you were, how old is she now? She's like
3.
3. And we carried you up here, but look at you now. You're walking up yourself, and it's a great milestone. Yeah,
because it was another level of challenge for it. Like,
welcome to parenting.
My husband and I have done a lot of physically challenging things, but with her, that attitude that day, man, oh man. It made it a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
I've never heard of a 3-year-old with attitude. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
She has good days some days. But the other day she wanted to go to the fair, the Montana State Fair, and I was like, it's done. And she's like, no. We're going. She was dressed for it. So yeah, it's she's starting to remember her experiences here.
Right.
And we went to Ryan Island this past weekend. And she had been there probably the month before, but she's starting to remember it. Mm-hmm. And when I go there, I remember the first time I saw the Great Falls and Ryan Island, and I'm like, this is gorgeous. This is beautiful.
Right.
And I've been there maybe 7-10 times now. Mm-hmm. And it's starting to lose its luster, if you will, because I'm used to this awe, this beauty.
Here we are again.
Here we are. Look how gorgeous it is.
And what you're looking at, for those who don't know, is really the Great Falls. We have a series of 5 dams here in Great Falls, Montana, and this is by far the most impressive.
It is. But she remembers it for the second time, and she's like, oh my goodness. I'm like, okay, yes, I will.
There you go.
I will reinstall the energy. But you get used to it. Mm-hmm. You get used to being around these gorgeous areas, and we even saw a deer on the island, so he crossed the bridge.
Yep, exactly.
But I just hope the deer can get back off the island.
Well, it closes at dusk, so they close. It's automatically locked. I'm not sure if he could read, but if not, there's plenty of grass for him to eat on there.
Right.
We mentioned you before on the podcast about a bike that you ride, the Peloton.
Right.
I did have my friend do the River's Edge Trail. Mm-hmm. She's out in D.C. area, and she loved it. So what do you do when you're outdoor rec, when you're not on the Peloton bike?
Right. So I don't want to do a commercial for Peloton, but as people who have friends who own those things, they're addicts and all. They can't stop talking about the things. But that's a good use for winter here to stay fit. My family, we were fortunate. We came out here, and the kids grew up and were able to really become great campers. That was a big thing for us. And we did that pretty much all summer long. So we did. My kids are grown and gone now, and they come back to visit, and they need their nature fix, is what they call it. And so they come back and we head out. But for my wife and I, we spend a lot of time, we gravel bike right now. We're really enjoying that. We still do a lot of hiking in the summer and backpacking up in the Bob Marshall Wilderness, which is this fantastic, huge area without any kind of access except by foot or horseback into an area. I think it's the size of the state of Rhode Island. So we go up to the Bob quite a bit and spend some time up there. We also in the winters go down to Yellowstone Park and do some cross-country skiing in the backcountry back there, and that's very accessible. And up to, we have a ski area 60 miles from here. And my kids grew up skiing, and I think at the time, this is when the whole sport was a lot more affordable than it is right now, but I think the number I use is that, about 20 years ago, a season pass for a kid was $59. And you go up there to this ski area, and all your friends and buddies are there, and the kids have friends, and really fun thing to do. So my wife and I are snowboarders, and we do a lot of that here in the winter. And so again, I try to fish. Everybody I go with fishes and catches fish, and I row the boat a lot because I haven't caught anything, but I do actually catch some fish from time to time. But I love to fly fish, and the Missouri River is literally right outside the door here, and some great fishing holes along the way. So we just try to take full advantage of every opportunity the state provides. One thing I don't do is hunt. And there's great hunting out here for people to do it. I've actually walked with people who hunt birds, upland game birds, pheasant, sharpies, and huns, and things like that. And I love to watch the dogs work. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
And you see some pretty country out there. And then, of course, I've worked with a guide and helped him with his stock for elk hunters.
Okay.
And that's really exciting, going up in the mountains and taking care of the mules and the horses while the hunters are out, taking care of their business and bringing home the bacon, bringing home the meat in this instance. So hunting is another incredible opportunity here, whether it's bow hunting or shooting or ducks or birds, big game. It's all right here.
My husband is an elk hunter, and he thought it'd be great because I love to hike. He's like, we could do this together. You can hike and I can hunt. Nope. I don't know if it's just our marriage or...
Because you have to be quiet, right?
Yeah, I often would get yelled at for breathing too loudly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there are rules out there. And if he's hunting with a bow, it's really tough because then you have to smell bad as well.
Yep.
But if you just using a rifle and stuff, that's a little different.
Yeah, he was with his bow. We had the dog at the time. I'm like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, that's a no-win situation.
Someone's
right
got to
there.
give here. Yeah. I got to be able to breathe. So
he wanted some help to pack that thing out. If he in fact got one.
Turns out we don't do hiking / hunting anymore.
Right,
I hike. He hunts.
Right.
We just do them in separate parts of the mountain.
Here you go. She can't tell us where Robert hunts because he'll get upset. What has you excited about Great Falls? Like things coming our way?
Well, a couple things. One is I really love the fact that, let's talk macro, the fact that now people can work remotely. So there's even more opportunities for us to bring in some folks from outside. The other thing is that if people, because of the pandemic, have been staying at home and they really want to bust out and see someplace new and get outside like a lot of people are doing these days, I'm excited about the fact that people are now ready to come to a Montana adventure. And, I think we call ourselves a genuine Montana town, and we are. So it's exciting to know that we're on the radar screen for not only potential residents and workers, but also for a lot more tourists who may want to have the experiences that we have now. The other thing I'm excited about is we have, over the last half a dozen years, found these great young people downtown who are risk takers. They're entrepreneurs, and they are putting their money where my mouth is. When I talk about what a great community is, these guys have grabbed that with a vengeance. There's a group of about 7 or 8 folks down there, and here's something unique. These guys all started out in restaurants, bars, microbrews that were basically, in most communities, would be seen as competitors. These guys said, you know what, we're going to make the pie bigger. And they have helped each other in a great supportive way, whether you're a cocktail lounge that has great upscale cocktails, or a great sandwich shop, or a great microbrew, or a retail place across the street. These guys have all realized we need to get folks downtown in our community. So they've done everything from great free music festivals. We have the best 4th of July in all of Montana, with free fireworks, free music downtown with name bands that come and play on the street. Everybody, is down there having a great time. We've had a lot of folks from Canada come down on a regular basis because of these kids that are working down. I say kids, they're just, these guys are in their 30s and 40s. And so that fact that they have grabbed it and they've really invested in the community, and it's paying off. So that has me really excited. We also have got here, and this is really for our city's consumption, we have got a new aquatic and recreation facility that's going up, a $20 million facility that is world-class. And that's going to be available. That's a community rec center. So whether you're here visiting, come on out and use it. It'll be up in a couple years. We're just breaking ground literally as we speak.
Yeah.
I'm leaving this podcast recording and going to the park where we're building this facility, and we're putting in the new water main today. So we've got that going on. So there's a lot of opportunity for for visitors and residents. And then I'd say the other thing is that for anybody who's considering moving to Great Falls, I think the whole world, the whole community in the United States rather, has recognized that wages needed to come up for the service workers and folks who traditionally, I would say, been underpaid. So our starting wages are raising almost every day as employers are really desperate to hire folks. It's one way to get them, pay them more. And we're seeing that in Great Falls, and it's really been a great revival from the bottom up to get folks who are working for less than what I would call adequate wages and really have an opportunity to work hard and make real money and do that. So there's just a lot going on here in the community. I could talk about a lot of other things. Our River's Edge Trail is always expanding. We've got better and better pedestrian access to some of the things we're doing. When you come to Great Falls, whether you're a tourist or a resident, we're putting up signs, actually wayfinding here, to where you can figure out if you're standing downtown, how do I get to the Children's Museum? Where's the library? How can I get to this? And sporting venues, et cetera. So we're real excited about that. And again, for the folks listening, we're a community of 60,000 people. And if you haven't been in a town of 60,000, it's kind of a tweener. We're not really a big city like I would say Billings is, or maybe the places where you're listening to this, but we're not like the towns where Mari's from, of 5 or 10,000, where basically everyone's related and they all know your business. There's an opportunity here to come embrace some of the accoutrements that we have, whether it's good eating, great scenery, great hotels, really lovely places to stay, and some of the agricultural activities that we have, whether it's the state fair, which is not only rides and cotton candy to drive 3-year-olds out of their mind, but it's also steer shows and animals, and walking through and seeing the 4-H kids with their hogs and chickens and all sorts of exotic animals as well. So it's just I just couldn't be more proud to live in this community and also to show it to other folks about who we are and what we are.
Wow. So how many other podcast listeners are you going to go fly off and see?
Well, if I'm in their area, there's no reason I won't go and see him. And I just tell my brother, again, this was my mother's 90th birthday back in North Carolina. And I said, I got to go for about an hour or two and go visit with this guy. And my brother, who lives in Phoenix, he looked at me and he said, What are you recruiting one person at a time? And I said, basically, yeah, I am, as a matter of fact.
That's the way it works.
We're slowly moving the decibel.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
That works.
That's right.
Well, Mayor, we really want to thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your love of Great Falls with us. People know that we have drank the Kool-Aid, and we just want to share with them other people that have, had more than they're serving.
Right. Well, I appreciate it, and I also appreciate the folks who are out there listening to this. Obviously, they have an interest in our community. They have an interest in other communities as well. And, you've heard a lot about what we think about our town here, which is, all in the positive. There are all sorts of realistic aspects here to our community, and we just welcome you to come out, get a look at us, enjoy it, have some fun out here. And if you care to stay longer, we'd be happy to visit with you. But come out and see us. And as I have to be mayor, I have to say this. Come on out here and spend some money, all right? We'd really love that. We want to see you, but we'd also love to see you do some shopping downtown, et cetera.
Please stimulate the economy. That's what we like.
That's right. Thanks for having me, though.
Yeah. If you want a recommendation of where to spend your money, you can check out all our show notes at werenodamexperts.com, or you can give me a phone call at 406-761-4436. If you want to call the mayor, I'm going to have you work for that number and do research on your own. But please, if it's a low-level question, send them our way first and give me a chance
to reply,
to return your call.
And if you're not happy with our reply, you can call me.
No, call me back and I'll fix it. Just don't call the mayor again, okay?
So thank you, Mayor. And until we see your bright, smiling face as our guests here in Great Falls, we hope you're having amazing memories wherever you are with your family and friends.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.
On the next episode of We're No Dam Experts, we have someone who has spent at least 50 years of their life on the Missouri River. We're No Dam Experts is produced by Great Falls, Montana Tourism with original music by the Best Dam musician, Joel Corda.